It's a beautiful day in the studios of Weekend Deal, Africa's biggest deal. Now, have you ever been in a situation whereby you're listening to any music as you're vibing to the song, and then boom, the lyrics got to you? Well, that was what happened to me this morning. As I was coming here, I was listening to a song, and what got my attention was the lyrics. It said, "Life won't be the same again." And this made me wonder, with COVID-19 ravaging through the world, making drastic changes in our daily lives, will life ever be the same? Well, COVID-19 didn't only bring with it the virus. It brought a lot of changes. We see changes in the way we dress, our social interaction. We see major religious cities shutting down. What am I talking about? The Vatican, Mecca, and weddings. Yes, we see weddings, people getting married virtually. I mean, who gets married virtually? I love wedding. I love one bear, party, grooving a little bit. But now, as some people call it, it's a strange times that we are in. But I am hopeful and optimistic that we will get through this before the end of 2020. Well, today on the program, we will be discussing behavioral change amid COVID-19, its impact, how people are embracing it, and how compliant are people. And not only that, today's episode promises to be an exciting one, as we have a bumper package for you. We have interesting guests that we will be discussing different sectors that is being affected by this virus, COVID-19. And also, this week we had several celebrations. We celebrated Eid, and of course, the children were celebrated. Yes, I was celebrated. I am a child too. Yes, that's good. And also, women were celebrated in a certain way. Well, you have to stay tuned until the end of the program to find out what other packages we have for you. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, earlier I talked about our focal points being behavioral changes amid this COVID-19. And we see drastic changes, not only in the health sector. We also see changes in other sectors like the educational sector, the business sector. We see government and private sectors resorting to virtual conferencing. And this makes me wonder, are we ready for this change? Well, here is an overview of what we will be talking about entirely this outing by Francis Ope.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is the biggest global event and challenge of our time. As such, it is changing human attitudes and behavior today and forcing organizations to respond. In addition, the pandemic has led to the creation of emergency lifestyle adjustments, especially with a partial or total lockdown across the country. Consequently, both government and private institutions are now resorting to virtual conferencing.
COVID-19 is really affecting our behavioral pattern, our social pattern. economic pattern, and environmental pattern. Before the advent of COVID-19, the normal norms has been seminars, workshops, symposiums, and all sorts of things that brings in people face to face. There are so many apps now that you can use to speak, to hold meetings, to hold virtual meetings, and I think even the federal government used one time where the president spoke or had fake meeting online. This is good, but when it comes to certain things, it prolongs issues. For example, if there is need for us to start looking at some documents, and you need to look at certain, you need to dot some I's and cross some T's, you cannot absolutely do that online. Yes, even if you scroll by sharing your screen, most people are not even equipped for this kind of change.
The COVID-19 has resulted in schools shut down all across the world. Consequently, education has changed dramatically with the distinctive rise of e-learning, whereby teaching is undertaken remotely with digital platforms.
Many states have adopted the e-learning platform where the syllabus have been rolled and the students have been asked to glue to their computer and then start learning. But in as much as this had been, I'm sure not many of these students at different level have been put to understand that this is the way it works. For example, students at a very lower age might not be able to have that skill to be on the e-learning. And parents that are not actually learned may not have that requisite knowledge for them to definitely be in the line of making their children to sit by the computer and learn them.
As the initiative and tech-driven world is striving to shake off the COVID-19 induced inertia and making frantic efforts to find a vaccine or cure for the pandemic, many activities such as weddings and birthdays have tilted towards the virtual space.
Birthdays are celebrated online, meetings are held online, even marriages are conducted online, where you have where pastor is somewhere and then the couple are somewhere. And you can see it has really affected so many economic activities, because you know that where people gather and then they come together and celebrate with you, you can do that online, and you still, the aspect of transportation is hampered. You don't go on transportation. The aspect of taking clothes, as in, normally the groups will definitely want to get clothes. So those that are selling clothes don't make money. The tailors, those that will need to sew the clothes are not making money. So the food seller, of course, those that will serve the food, they're not making money. The rentals, those that are into rentals are not making money. So I see this COVID-19 as cutting our expenses.
The need to respect social distancing has made physical meetings impossible for both government and private organizations. But the show must go on. Virtual tools have come to the rescue, but not without its own challenges. The world will never remain the same again. But how can we effectively utilize online participation tools to continue global meetings uninterrupted and better our lives?
The future for Nigeria is bright. Why do I say that? We are the set of people that adapt better all over the world. We can adapt to all situations. So, and that's why I'm so optimistic that even when this COVID-19 is going to be over gradually, and the ease of lockdown will come in gradually, I can say to you, to the viewers, that the future of Nigeria is better. It's going to be better because we have witnessed the shock and we have responded to the shock and we are adapting to the shock.
The deployment of virtual tools in the midst of COVID-19 lockdown in Nigeria has gone a long way to ensure that governance is not locked down. Therefore, our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on COVID-19 and behavioral change.
Indeed, Nigerians were not called giants of Africa for nothing. We can adopt and adapt in any situation we find ourselves, especially when we travel somewhere else. And when we are talking about traveling, one of the sectors that has been hit by this pandemic, COVID-19, is the transportation sector. We see a lot of people, wayfarers, are complaining of the hike in fares, how people interstate travel is weighing down on people. And NTA Oka went round in order to see what people have to say about this.
The disease, named Corona Disease 2019, abbreviated as COVID-19, was described as an infectious disease that is caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, otherwise known as coronavirus, as those affected develop mild illness and recover without hospitalization, while some develop harsh illness which may lead to death. Aside the negative health implications, COVID-19 has other adverse effects on the people and the affected nations of the world, like economic, social, religious, and more. In Anambra State, southeast Nigeria, like other states of a nation and the world, COVID-19 has crippled the state economy and affected all the sectors like religious and socio-economic well-being of a people. In the area of commercial activities and transport usage, transporters have so far been experiencing decline in the turnout of passengers as a result of lockdown, curfews, and more, which has resulted to low income. Passengers, both small and medium-scale entrepreneurs, decry the increase in transportation fare resulting to high cost of goods and services.
They blocked all the entrances and everything. Some of our customers even come from Benue. But since this whole coronavirus and COVID-19 issue started, we haven't seen them.
Formerly, we are transported from here to Enugu, from Anambra to Enugu, 500 a person. But now, people are paying 1.5 to Enugu. So people are suffering.
When the students were around, we used to carry so many passengers, but now there is no student.
The physical distancing rule and limitation of guests to 30 at functions has punctuated the relish that goes with social gatherings.
Because me, I'm a musician also. When we play, we gather people in several occasions, you see people also. But now, you don't do that anymore.
In all, people are still advised to be careful and follow the NCDC directives to curb the spread of a pandemic.
Well, the good news is that oil price is reduced, and I am sure that transporters will find way to bring down the fare so that at least people will work well. Well, earlier on, I told you that we will be chatting with interesting people, and we are talking about behavioral change amid this pandemic. People have been locked down and they don't know what to do. They're trying to find business solutions and all that. So now we have with us in the studio a life coach, wealth and life coach, who is a mentor, and he is not new to the screens, to your screens. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Mr. Francis Okumapa. Welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. I know one of your favorite cliche that people associate with you is money flows on the streets of Abuja and all over Nigeria. Just find a way to pick it. We are in this pandemic, COVID-19. Do you still see money on the streets of Abuja, or has coronavirus taken over the streets?
Money cannot stop flowing in the streets of Nigeria and all over Nigeria. Even during war, people make money. What has happened is something that should create a change, and change is the only constant thing in this world. If you adapt to the change, you will start seeing the opportunities. And in any situation that you find yourself, if you look at the situation negatively, you'll be looking down. If you look at the situation positively, you'll be looking up. And when you look up, you'll see all the opportunities. So money continues to flow in the streets of Nigeria.
COVID-19 came with a lot of baggages, and a lot of people have been locked in the house. And when with little or no resources to fend for themselves, how do you think people will cope during this pandemic?
Even during war, people sell things. But when there is a situation, you must look at the situation and adjust yourself to the situation. What people need to do is to change their mindset and begin to look for the opportunities. Sitting out at home does not mean that you cannot make money. For somebody who was sitting at home or who was going to working for a company, earning minimum wage of 30,000 naira, as a marketer, today with this changed situation, you have to work remotely. You can actually offer yourself to work for 5 companies and tell the companies to be marketing their goods, and sit at home and face your computer and start selling for those 5 companies. And you make money from the 5 companies. Where you were making 30,000 before, you might be making 250 to 500,000. That is change in the mindset. The change in the mindset is that I don't need to work for one person anymore. I can actually work for 5 people and 5 different companies and make money. So the change does not mean that your 30,000 job, you lose it and you go to bed and do nothing.
You talked about online business.
Yes.
And Nigerians, most of us are not online savvy.
Okay.
We don't have this access to virtual business world.
I tell you, everything you need to succeed is in Nigeria.
Okay.
For those who have talent, they don't have money. For those who have goods to sell, they don't know how to sell. So if you know that, you will see that in the street today, there are talented people on the street, in millions, looking for who to use them. There are people today who have shops, who have money. They were able to create, open a shop, stock the shop, put people in the shop to sell in the shop as employees, buy diesel and generator, and they are not selling. In today's dispensation, look for somebody that has something you don't have. Do you know in Nigeria today, politicians, God gave them power, but He doesn't give them time. There are people that have money that God gave money. They don't know what to do with the money. The monies are in the bank, I do. And there are people God gave talent. They are sitting at home waiting for money and power. In Nigeria, we have everything. All you need to do is look for what you don't have and adjust and get collaboration with somebody that has what you don't have, and you are good to go. For example, a shop owner sits in the shop. He doesn't see up to 5 to 10 people a day. I come there as someone that has internet experience, but I don't have money to open the shop, and I offer to sell for the person. And I take picture of his items that he sells, and I put it on the social media, and I put my phone number. After negotiating my price with you, at the end of the day, I will even make more money than you, because going to the internet, I have over 10,000 people looking at what I'm selling, but only 5 or 10 people will come to your shop. Who will sell more? So what I'm trying to tell people today is that if you have a shop and you are not selling, look for me. I will show you what to do. You will sell more. There are people who have talent. They're on the street. A barber can make 1 million naira a month today in this new dispensation. How? The barber will not go to the shop and start barbing hair and getting commission and getting 30,000 naira a month. If he comes to my office, I will show him how he needs to locate 5 estates and go to the estate managers and tell the estate managers that, look, I want to be coming to your estate to do the hair of the people in the estate. I have my sanitizers. I have everything to take care of COVID-19. Those people will be happy to receive him, and he'll be going there to barb the hair every weekend. He will have more customers to barb. 5 estates. He doesn't need to open a shop. He doesn't need to stock the shop. He doesn't need to employ people. He will just go with his kit and barb those hair. If he does it continuously for 5 estates, he will make money. I have another student, a woman that is selling vegetable. I saw the woman selling vegetable, and I asked the woman, I said, are you making money selling this vegetable in this market? He said, I don't make too much. I said, how much do you make on the average a month? He said 50 to 60,000 naira. I said, I will show you what to do. You will sell what you need to sell for 1 month in a day. I said, rent a bus. Take the goods of people that you have around you and go to 5 estates. And tell those estates, arrange with them that you'll be bringing those foodstuff and vegetables and fruit every Saturday morning. He came with a bus and he sold what he would sell in a month, in a day. COVID-19 has opportunities.
Yes, COVID-19 has opportunities.
And people should open their eyes.
Our feedback line is on the screen. You can send in your messages so that we can also ask our guest here, and he may be able to answer 1 or 2 of your questions. Now, businesses, sometimes starting off, it's not on full throttle that you start, and it tends to be shaky. How can people, business owners, make do with the lapses of business starting off?
You see, I tell people, everybody is looking up. Many people are looking down in this situation when they should be looking up. When you look up, you will see the opportunities that are available. For example, I wanted to give a proposal to a big man in society. I sent a text message with my proposal. I signed it electronically. Ordinarily, before now, if I send that thing to the ministry, it will take years. Sometimes they don't even see it. The man in charge does not see it. But I send this text, just risking that. Let me just send the text. I sent the text by WhatsApp to the big man, and you won't believe it. The next day, I was called from the office to come for a meeting. Business is going to be easier to do now.
Okay.
There are a lot of things that we used to do, go into the car and go through traffic and go through bureaucracy of the civil service. You don't need to do a lot of that anymore because everybody knows now. All those transport you need to pay for and all that, you can reduce it and stay at home and do a lot of your business. I have sent proposals to strategic organizations telling them that I can reduce unemployment and poverty by over 20%. And I'm daring Nigerians to ask me questions. I mentor people, open their eyes to how they can create wealth with little or nothing, succeed in whatever they are doing. What you need to understand is that what you don't have, somebody else have it.
Yes, what you don't have, somebody else have
it.
But the major thing here is capital. When you want to start,
you don't need capital to start a business.
You don't need capital.
You don't need capital to start a business.
That's interesting.
And I can tell you, just tell me the business you want to do. But when I say you don't need capital to start a business, I'm not saying go and start a business on the top.
Okay.
Because if you look at the top, you'll be looking for 2 million, 5 million naira to start a business. Because you must rent a place. You must stock the place. You must employ people in the place. You don't need all that. A man that wants to start business, look at your environment. There are people who have things to sell. They don't know how to use a computer. There are people who have talent. They don't know who to use them. Just begin to look for 5 people to use or 5 people to sell for. If you do it in a month, you have the capital you are looking for to start that business. Okay. For example, somebody that has goods to sell is in his shop. Go take picture of the item that he's selling. Instead of doing selfie and advertising yourself, put it in the social media and put your phone number. You will sell more than the person that has a shop. Did you use capital to open that business? No. Now, for someone that has a talent, a barber, an electrician, a plumber, a mechanic, collect their phone numbers and tell them I'll be sending people to you. If I send anybody to you who gives you business, give me 20% of it. You have employed yourself as a marketer to 5 people. You don't need money to start that business. And by the time you start selling for 5 people, it won't take you time. You make money. I told one of my mentees that go to your village. There's a herbalist that has something herb that they can use to solve a problem. For example, fibroid for women. And I told this the mentee that herbalist will not ask you for 2,000 naira. Take the herbalist number and come back to Abuja and put on the social media, I have cure for fibroid. I charge 20,000 naira. They will pay you 20,000 naira. In the social media, you have over 10,000 people that will see it. The herbalist is in my village, but you'll be calling to send that herb to you in Abuja. You will make 1 million naira a month using the herbalist. Are you the herbalist?
No.
So there are a lot of talented people on the street today All you need to do is use them. You can also use me. Take my number. Begin to tell people in Nigeria today that I have a solution for poverty and unemployment. Maybe you get a governor to use me.
Yes.
If they pay me to teach 100,000 people on how they can start business without 1 naira in their pocket and double whatever business they are into, I will make 1 billion naira. I will give you 200 million naira.
Okay.
Are you the person doing the mentorship?
No.
So there are talented people on the street. In fact, unemployment is if you look at unemployment, you will make a lot of money.
Yes.
Because you'll be employing a lot of talented people on the street.
Well, aside from the zeal that you need to have in order to start business, what other qualities does one need to thrive in a business?
Mindset. The mindset is the biggest problem. It's the most difficult thing to change. Today, as I speak to you, most people are illiterate. Yes, even the politicians that we have, the rich people that we have, everybody has a need. Because if you don't change your mindset, you cannot get the best out of life. Because you don't have everything. So if you can change your mindset, it will help you in actually opening yourself to the opportunities that are bound in your environment. The other thing is the ICT, information technology. Information technology is the new education we have today. You can be educated and still be an illiterate in the environment that we find ourselves today. Because the internet has become a tool that you can use to enhance your business, to make your business smoothly run without stress.
Thank you so much for coming, and I am very sure a lot of Nigerians have benefited from what you have just said. We have been talking with a wealth and life coach, mentor, Francis Okumapa. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
now we go to Lagos to find out what they have on the behavioral change amid this COVID-19.
On the 27th of February 2020, the first confirmed case of the novel coronavirus was announced in Lagos, a respiratory disease that will change the lifestyle of residents in this one-time ever-busy, hustling and bustling commercial nerve center of Nigeria. A people known for their fun-loving social interaction, it is not surprising that they are finding it difficult in complying with the simple safety health guidelines and preventing the spread of COVID-19.
A lot of people are still doing in-house parties. Some of these parties are guided, maybe well-to-do people. They still mark birthday and they're still exposed. Why a lot of this exposure is that people don't maintain this social distance. They only come, if it's only when they come to public space, they begin to feel with the love of decorum. You know, when people come, when high profile come to the people, they want to show their savvy, they want to show they have decorum. But when they come into their own coven, they don't do it.
Fabomi Kofivi is the president of Bariga Artist Forum.
The impact so far is that no jobs, no work. The schools that a whole lot that do go for their normal day-to-day activities to teach students have been locked down. The rehearsal spaces have been locked down. The theater spaces have been locked down. So no job, no food on the table. Everyone is at home.
Business activities in the state have not been spared owing to the measures taken at both the state and federal tier of government to protect lives. Toreshe Oriashe is a fisherman along the Lagos Lagoon in Bariga.
We've had history and scores about the world pandemic as it has affected a lot of places in the world. So in Nigeria, as it has been instructed that there should be a total lockdown before the easing one. So the fishing life has been fine and good for us. The business part of it, we've always been making the money. But when the pandemic came and we had to stay at home, the business changed, the dialogue changed. It was not as the way it used to be before.
Although this virus has a major health impact on the way of life, it also has brought a new frontier in terms of technological advancement.
The issue of customer interface has to change, because right now that without customer, you can't do any business. Now, it means now that you have to begin to use customer relation management team to be able to reach out to your customer, to be able to do what we call customer retention analysis, to be able to determine the churn rates, to be able to provide another value-added services. Then you have to come to use a lot of digital marketing landscape to reach out to people. The whole business now, the COVID-19 has changed the whole business to a small village. And you find out that now, it has also bring the advent of people using an e-commerce, an enterprise web analysis, where most of the transaction can be done from A to Z. So you virtually did not need to leave where you are now to do any business.
As Lagosians grapple with the reality of a new normal, expert says it is time to leverage on technology and improve the quality of life in the state and in turn the nation at large.
Well, Lagos is one of the ever-bustling cities in Nigeria. It is no wonder that they are finding it hard in this lifestyle changes amid this COVID-19. We take a break now. When we come back, we serve you with more. Nigeria is a country that has vast land, and we have about 36 states. And with this COVID-19 came a ban on interstate travel. Now, NTA Asaba, that's Delta State, that has about 5 states borders that shares borders with 5 states, has went round Asaba to look at the compliance level of these interstate bans. Are they complying? Let's take a look.
To say that the novel coronavirus pandemic has left sad consequences in Israel would be restating the obvious. Amid several measures adopted by the federal and state governments in Nigeria to curb its fast spread was the ban on interstate travels. Delta State, Nigeria, which has interstate border points with Anambra, Edo, Bayelsa, Rivers, Kogi, and Imo states, has equally been fervent in the drive at making people to comply with this directive. This tax is by no means arduous. This is the Niger bridgehead and remarkably the most notable of the Delta borders. A visit to those points particularly revealed a mixed feeling in terms of compliance with movement given the strategic nature of this bridge to the socio-economic climate of Delta and Anambra State, which it borders. Security men and task force team have worked assiduously to enforce the border closure directive here.
Every transport vehicle is now being checked, even the trailers, the lorries. Unfortunately, the criminal elements among the drivers of the trailers and lorries tend to carry some of these people along with their so-called goods. So you can see people load some rice and load some other food items, and they carry passengers along, and they tend to hide the passengers.
Some regular commuters have had to trek the length of this bridge to cross over to the adjoining state before boarding intrastate vehicles.
No, across the bridge I got a bike.
Okay.
So from God is Good Motors here, that's Oko Junction. I had to trek all the way down here because there was no way we could get any transport service. Okay, the appeal there is this. The curfew was announced, right? Yeah. So why don't they allow the movement flow, pending, as in flow during the day, and then once it's time for the coffee, they let everybody go inside.
They normally leave us because they know if they don't leave us, we won't work. So, but it's really affecting us, yeah. It's really affecting us. In my own point of view, I think it's the interstate lockdown. According to Anambra State, there's all these big trucks. They say that because of the interstate lockdown, they don't used to enter the state. That's why. So the police is blocking at the toll gates. So that's because of the lockdown. But for me, I think I want the government to help us and know how to solve this problem because it's really disturbing us.
The situation here is, however, not a palatable one, as the hustling to circumvent the directive at total closure of the border has made it not too effective. The border restrictions with sprinkle of both vehicular and human movement still make it imperative that a lot of sensitization is still needed in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria to record huge success.
Nigerians will always find a way to make do with this COVID-19. And now we are going to Owerri, where they look at the health sector that has been hit. And this time around, they're looking towards herbs, vegetables. Owerri, over to you.
I believe coronavirus exists.
I don't believe up to now, they watch TV, they see people die.
There is no denial. Imo people believe coronavirus exists. The harsh realities of the ravaging pandemic coronavirus in the country has brought about hard consequences on almost every aspect of our lives. The economic sector, educational, sports, agricultural sector, business, social life, and health sector. Change is one aspect that brings about development, new policies, and re-strategizing ways of doing things. There is need to accommodate human behavioral changes. Government at all levels has put in place precautionary measures to ensure its citizens stay healthy and safe. Imo State government also wants its residents to stay safe at all times. At all nooks and crannies of the state, Imolites are conscious of their environment.
Before, we normally carry 8-7, but now we are carrying 5.
Of coronavirus, by using face masks, discussing social distance, and as well as washing my hand constantly.
They are health hazards, so we need to evacuate them so that the people of Imo State will be healthy and happier.
Coronavirus has brought about changes in human attributes, forcing organizations, employees, citizens, individuals, families, and social groups to react and source creative innovation and new ways to healthy living.
Nazi people are playing their own role to make sure that there is no spread. Then we've gone beyond that to inaugurate members to carry this message into all the villages. They are doing that effectively.
In the face of COVID-19, we people are staying family because we are trying to see what we can eat next year.
The fear of coronavirus has also made many believe they cannot rely on the existing health structure. Self-medication has become the order of the day. Experts warn the health of the mother and child cannot be overemphasized.
There is still need for mothers and other caregivers to go to the primary health centers to assess immunization for their child who have gotten up to a certain age. If they don't assess this vaccination, it will have a very big negative impact on the child.
Many workers are spending more time at home. This, of course, means a rise in home spending. Hence, homemade goods are now in vogue, thus opening opportunities for those with creative strategies to explore and make the home conducive. Families have also resorted to eating fruits and vegetables. Garlic, lemon, and ginger drinks are families' favorite.
You can go to the backyard or you can go to farm. People are speculating that you can take some native roots, cook them with ginger and the drink, and they will cure this disease or give you some degree of immunity.
We simply have to move forward by applying the simple ABC. A, accept the challenge. B, believe in ourselves. C, contain and combat coronavirus by adhering strictly to the precautionary measures.
I'm going with the C because I think we have already achieved the A and B, compliance. We have to do our part. The government has to do their part. Even the private sector have to do their own part. While we are still talking about the change, behavioral change that this pandemic has brought. And I have with me, like earlier I said, we have interesting guests. I have with me the chairman, Abuja Municipal Area Council, in person of Abdullahi Adamu in the studio. Sir, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yes. COVID-19 came, and it came with a lot of baggage. People have to make do, change their daily routine, and drastic change. What's your take on it? Totally, the change that COVID-19 brought.
Yeah, let me agree with you. Simply that this is something that generations, I want to believe, those of us who are close 50 thereabout, even at this age, we've never experienced a situation like this in our lifetime. And therefore, I want to think that the COVID-19 situation is completely something that has never occurred. We may never even have envisaged it, that it will even come our way, but that it is here. It has brought, it has came along with lots of changes, and it has affected our behavioral conduct. And that I believe Nigerians will agree with me that until and unless we, re-strategize, we may not be able to pull out of it for some time.
Yes, we have seen different features on compliance. Are Abuja residents complying to this lockdown, the easing? Are they complying, especially the AMAC?
Yeah, I think when you say FCT, you are talking of course, 6 area councils. I manage one of the area council, that is Abuja.
Yes, that's why I said
Council.
especially the AMAC.
Yes, and let me inform the resident that in the entire territory, AMAC, take the chunk of the population and the size. We have, we're more than half of the population of the Federal Capital Territory itself, and therefore, by landmass too, I want to believe that we occupy the bigger. And therefore, the compliant from the part of the residents, I can, give a percentage. Let's say 75-80% people have complied. From the beginning, there was this kind of lukewarm and nonchalant conduct and attitude on the part of the citizens. But I think when the reality is dawning on them, they needed to readjust that, yes, this is real, and therefore we need to change. And so there seems to be some compliance, but of course we cannot give it 100% compliance. As human beings, we have our own ways of doing things. Some are arrogant, some cannot take, government directives and just, hit the ground by being obedient completely. And therefore we have a semblance of, from all parts of AMAC indeed, you discover that we have 3 zones, Zone A, Zone B, Zone C. Every part of these zones you go, you must see some kind of nonchalant conduct from some Nigerians.
Yes, because within this lockdown, we've seen people reporting that within AMAC, people conducted social gatherings, especially religious gatherings. They held Jumat prayer and all that. What's your take on that?
Well, I want to say that categorically here, that in the Abuja Municipal Area Council, except if they hide, except if they choose to hide to organize Juma prayers, we've been very proactive in that, and we've taken every step to make sure that our communities, oblige the government directive. And I feel that people who still feel they must observe these prayers, they have to sneak to neighboring states like Nasarawa, Niger State, where where the state government have eased down, and then they are making, they are observing their Juma prayers. And I see that as even, as something new, because once the government says this, I want to believe that they are not infringing any pains in us. They are only trying to ensure that we remain safe. And then, unfortunately, some Nigerians will still say, "Oh, let me go and pray in Nasarawa State. Let me go and pray in Niger State." All it leads to nothing, because I believe that even the religious obligation did not, entail that you must suffer yourself before you serve your God. There are reasons why even the God Himself wants you to stay safe before you even serve Him. So here in AMAC, I don't think we are noticing these people that still observe either churches or mosque religious obligations. We don't do that sincerely. I want to believe 99% of the communities have adhered strictly to the government directive.
Okay, we are talking with the chairman AMAC in person of Abdullahi Adamu, and our feedback line is on the screen. You can send your messages and your questions to him. While he's here, he will answer. This COVID-19, we have seen a lot of government and private sector giving out palliatives, especially in the Abuja Municipal Center.
Yeah.
Do you think that the palliative is enough, or should we teach people how to also thrive?
Well, I'm in agreement. The fact that donor organizations, individuals made lots of sacrifice by donating palliative, as in foodstuff and what have you. And in the Federal Capital Territory, it was, efficiently coordinated by our Amazon, the Minister of State, who coordinates this distribution. She did very well, perfectly well with her team, complemented by the area councils. Here, I think the palliative distribution was something that we must, access. If we were to give percentage, I think the lady in the Minister of State did very, very well, and I think complemented by the area council. So, but the fact that you're asking whether it is enough, there's nothing that can ever be enough. Nothing whatsoever that you give to people can never be 100% enough. And therefore, it behoves that those of us who are also, administering the people, we also did the best we can by coming up with the little that is available within our reach to say, hey, this is what the area council can as well support the people with. But like I said, nothing can ever be enough. I think it is now expected of government. I think it is better now that they should ease down a little bit so that the economy can get back to work, and then people can also feed themselves instead of waiting for support from individuals.
Yes, definitely. Well, in the midst of this COVID-19, Kachi went round Abuja to see how they're coping with the behavioral change. Let's take a look.
In what is typically a bustling commercial district of Abuja, the current mood is tense. Non-essential businesses remain closed. Taxis struggle to meet the recently enforced maximum of 3 passengers. And for city residents who hope to regain some sense of normalcy, the threat of the coronavirus spread is hard to overlook, especially for commuters who are forced into close contact. Several taxis that pass by carry only 1 passenger, good for social distancing but very bad for business.
The number of passengers we are taking before has reduced, but right now we are trying to make up little things because we are having families and friends and other loved ones at home. So right now we are not finding it easy.
A total lockdown of non-essential business and movement was enforced in Abuja for several weeks and counting. Road movement was only permitted for persons authorized to seek or deliver essential services, duties, and goods. Exemptions which did not extend to commercial commuter services such as city buses, taxis, and tricycles. Those operations remained completely suspended for the period of the lockdown. Now that the measures are set to ease gradually, the responsibility of the public health and safety for commuters is shared equally by drivers and their passengers.
This is my sanitizer. So I used to sanitize my passengers before going out. So I must make sure you wear your face mask.
They say social distance in the vehicles, but now they are carrying tray at the back. And when you carry tray, our body used to touch each other. They asked us to be wearing masks, but many of the security agencies are not wearing masks. And they are the people who are supposed to show example. They are arresting people for not wearing masks, and them that are arresting people are not wearing masks.
Drivers and passengers are mandated to wear masks while in transit, observe social distance, and frequently perform hand hygiene. To ensure this, drivers are to reduce occupancy. Drivers are to clean and disinfect frequently touched parts of the vehicle. Drivers are to ensure provision of hand sanitizer to all passengers. Public commuting must also adhere to the daily 8 p.m. curfew.
We are using the mask. My own advice to the government is to just enforce the people that are selling food in the town. Because when some people selling food, they will be talking. And when you are talking, anything can enter the food.
City residents have adapted to the face mask and hand hygiene measures. But where social distancing is concerned, economic needs appear to outweigh the health risks.
We carry 2 people from here to Kubwa. They cannot pay 350. So they are still going back to the normal price of 200. And 2 times 3 is 600. 600 cannot do anything. Then the people we are carrying mostly is from the UTC mall, and up till now UTC have not been open. So we are finding it too difficult to cope. You buy fuel for 2,000, hardly for you to get up to 2,000.
The disruption to commuter services has put on additional strain on the livelihood of many. With the time constraint and passenger limits, it is a challenge for drivers to complete more rides in order to make up a bare fraction of their previous daily earnings. Even with their persistence, business is certainly not as usual. Despite these setbacks, Nigerians must make the effort to prioritize their safety through the resolution of the pandemic.
Today on The Woman, I have a special guest joining me via Zoom, all the way from the United States of America. Prof, nice to have you join us. I hear the sun is coming out a little bit, so it's not so chilly anymore.
No, actually, I live in Florida, where it's always sunny, the sunshine state.
Okay.
What is it that has helped you to take your game a notch higher?
Well, first of all, I'll say education. You know, education is very key. I say to people, it's easy to get there.
This is the new normal. You can be sure the media is up front and center with all the ingenious methods to keep you updated. Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp are amongst the visual social media handles we utilize as a result of COVID-19 and the need to maintain social and physical distancing.
Well, Florida is doing much better than most other states.
It's very effective. And importantly, too, I get to maintain my social distancing because the guest is scared of me. I am, to a large extent, too, scared of the guests. So, and nobody's saying, look, I don't want to see you around me because I'm scared of you. But then we all know what is at the back of our mind. We don't know who is sick and who is not sick.
The creative mind of broadcasters is renowned. Information made easy as guests around the globe are accessed in the comfort of their space to wherever you are. Against All Odds is a weekly program I produce on the NTA. It's a program that entails you getting guests weekly. Now, getting this guest is a big deal. But with the emergence of COVID-19, things are different. I can actually sit at the comfort of my space and just make a phone call to a guest and ask the person to record him or herself and send it to me. And in one spot, everything is done. Easy, right? There is always 2 sides to a coin. Hear this.
During interviews, it is usually better or more convenient when the guest is right there in the studio. But with the advent of COVID-19, we had resorted to the use of Skype and Zoom. But the challenges we face during such interviews could be from network, and usually we experienced lots of freezing on air, and sometimes it can be really very dicey because you cannot predict the network. Now, with the Zoom app, we experience better audio quality, better video quality, but the challenge with Zoom is the 45 minutes duration they give. Sometimes it's not enough.
You need a lot of education because you may be a professional as a media practitioner. Your guest, who is probably a medical doctor, he does not care about your frame. So you must also tell your guests about lighting, bright background, and because most times they're in their home, I've had to cancel a recording because the lady just woke up, carried a gele, wrap around her head, and she had a pajamas. I said, Ma, you cannot do that. This is profile. So you do your recording. This is for pictures on cameras, phone cameras. So if you take your pictures like this, it's okay, I can use it. But if you're going to do a video, you need to go on landscape. Otherwise, when I put it, you find out sometimes the pictures don't get, the videos don't get to this end, to this, you know.
Producers are beginning to enjoy this new norm. And for those who haven't explored it, what are they planning to do differently?
Before you could go about any production, you have to first of all think about safety, keeping social distance first. And our job make you go around people, mingle with people. So you have to think of how to go about your production. Now, what I do for those who are not on Zoom or Skype, I actually ask them to record and send to you.
Life offers you options. Grab them. When life gets tough, break through. There is always a way out.
COVID-19 came and it brought with it baggage, with a lot of change. That is what we will still continue to talk about tomorrow. Join us same time. I am Aisha Megarikana. Bye for now.